Hi, friends. Historically, the production and reception of literature has been controlled largely by men. However, men are not the only beings in our society. It is important now to insert a feminist viewpoint in order to bring to our attention neglected works as well as new approaches to old works. Men and women are different. They write differently, they read differently, and they write about their reading differently. These differences should be valued. While reading Crime and Punishment, a feminist critic sees cultural and economic disabilities in the patriarchal society that is 1860s St. Petersburg, Russia. This piece of great literature, as does others, lacks autonomous female role models, and is implicitly addressed to male readers. Since feminists often argue that male fears are portrayed through feminine characters, we focus on the relationships between genders by examining the patterns of thought, behavior, values, and power through interviews with the characters.
Why did you commit the murders?
Well, they were easy targets that wouldn't fight back, and I knew that Lizaveta was weak both mentally and physically because of her femininity.
How did you feel when your mother sent you the letter informing you that your sister was getting married?
I was outraged. She went behind my back and should have gotten my approval because I am the man of the family and I run it. And I can't believe that they would make such an irrational decision to get married to somebody who's so unworthy. And they are so incompetent to see his deceiving ways. And I really should have been able to see through it with my wisdom, and they should have consulted me. I was very mad.
What was your opinion of women at the time of the murder?
I've always seen them as incompetent and inconvenient, really, because I always have to care for them and clean up for their mistakes. And they're very annoying. It's just obnoxious to have to take care of them. And I believe that women are subordinate to men in our society because men rule the society and take care of everything that's important. And they serve an important role in nothing. They are useless.
What changed your opinion of women?
Well, you see, when I first met Sonia, she was just another pitiful, weak woman. Then, when I began to understand her sacrifices that she made for her family and that outweighed what the men were doing in her family, I started to see the light. As I realized that this went unnoticed and that all women play this role in their families, and it's just never been seen by me in my male view. And this really drew me to Sonia because this allowed me to foster a relationship with her, and it allowed it to flourish after I realized that the struggles that she makes, and I started understanding that the softer sides of life are only what women could teach me.
Go.
What drew you to Lucian?
Well, he was just so sweet, and I knew he wanted me as his wife. He seemed like he could give me the money and security that I longed for. I grew up my whole life being poor, not having the resources that other girls had to make themselves beautiful. I wanted a sweet husband that could give me all the things that I desired.
Why did you let him treat you the way that he did?
Well, to be quite honest, he had the money to support me and my family. I was wrongly accused in the previous relationship for something I didn't do and was just looking for something new and someone I could truly love. I thought it was my destiny. The real trouble began when he started insulting my family. By then, the marriage was already planned and I felt trapped. The tensions grew worse and worse until I just couldn't take it anymore. He gave me a choice, Raskolnikov or him, and naturally I chose my beloved brother.
What emotional effect did Svidrigailov have on you?
Well, I tried to stay strong, but emotionally it was very taxing. The constant threats were so disturbing. They consisted of me being his slave and his wife. I would never. I let him bother me for so long and wished I would have done away with him sooner. At last, when he confronted me on the bridge, I gathered my courage. He threatened to make me his servant and rape me if I didn't agree to marriage. I took my gun out of anger and fear and threatened that if he didn't listen to me, I would shoot him. Eventually, he obeyed and was no longer on my list of troubles.
Why do you always seem so quiet and meek?
It's not my place to speak up. I'm not in charge of my family, and they are more important than me. I feel like I'm a burden to everyone around me, and I want to help my family more, but I really don't know how. I'm afraid to ask them to help out more because if I mess up, it'll only make things worse and they'll get mad.
Tell us about the burdens of your family.
Where do I start? We are as poor as ever. We can't afford extra luxuries, which is mentally frustrating. My dad is always drunk. He's a huge alcoholic. Since we are so poor, I'm forced to turn to a life of prostitution. It is the only way I can support my family. Even poor people will pay me, and although it's not much, I'll take what I can get.
How did Raskolnikov treat you at first?
Since I needed his money, I guess I was willing to put up with anything, and he knew that, so he treated me really horribly. He verbally abused me, and it was hard to handle. It especially got difficult when he attacked my beliefs because I am a firm believer in God.
Why do you think Raskolnikov's opinion changed?
I'm guessing he realized that I wasn't just another stupid girl, and once he was in my household and saw how my family operates, he came to realize that I, a woman, do more than my alcoholic father, a man, to contribute to the well-being of my family. Well, my dad is out drinking and spending money that we don't have in the first place. I'm out selling myself to do anything possible just so my family can get by. I am fine doing these horrible things just so my sister won't have to. I will do anything to support my family, and I think Raskolnikov started to see that and gain respect for me, and eventually ended up falling in love with me.
Are you embarrassed about being a prostitute?
No, I mean, I had to do what must be done to keep my family alive. God has a plan for me, and I am not a very important person, so it doesn't matter that I was a prostitute. When Raskolnikov pointed out that we were both sinners in the same way, he was wrong. I have only sinned in order to help out my family, while his sins were selfish and only for him. I know that God forgives me for my sins because I do them for the good of my family.
Why do you think you are the one that made Raskolnikov confess?
I'm the only one that had a truly meaningful relationship with him, and I was always compassionate towards him when other people didn't care about him at all. So I think that he felt like he could trust me. He knew that I would love him no matter what, and I told him I would not abandon him. I wanted him to become a better person, so I convinced him to confess, so that way God could forgive him for his sins.
What was your initial reaction when Raskolnikov came into your pawn shop?
I sensed that he was trying to deceive me and get me to pay more for his items. I could tell that he thought I was weak, but I am not that stupid. He was trying to distract me, but I turned him down. I didn't want to be taken advantage of. However, he gained my trust by being his usual rude self.
What were you thinking when Raskolnikov showed up at your house?
I was very confused to why he would randomly show up there. I didn't know him at all. I was hesitant to let him in, but I let my guard down and let him inside my house to make the deal. I let my feminine sensitivity get the best of me, and it didn't work out, to say the least.
Why do you think that Raskolnikov killed your sister as well?
Since he was robbing my apartment and she came in, he viewed her as a threat to his plan, and she was too vulnerable to act to his aggressive masculinity. I think this was the only time that he ever viewed a woman in a position of power. Obviously, he didn't like a woman having any power to get him in trouble because he axed her just the same way he did to me.
How does the fact that you are a woman play into Raskolnikov killing you?
He obviously viewed me as being extremely weak. I don't think he even thought I would fight back. It was ridiculous that he would look at me as so weak. The only reason he got to me so easily is because I did not expect it. I am not weak.
Back again. One thing that is very subtle throughout Crime and Punishment is the way that Dostoevsky addresses his characters. Male characters, such as Raskolnikov, Svidrigailov, and Petrovich, are almost always referred to by their last names. The only instance in which they are called by their first names is when other characters are using nicknames for them, such as Rodion for Raskolnikov. Females, on the other hand, are referred to either by their first names, such as Sonia, or their full names, such as Katerina Ivanovna or Marfa Petrovna. This can be comprehended in one of two ways. One could say that this is typical writing of a male author who lives in a patriarchal society. Men were referred to by their last names because that is the family name, and men are at the heads of the family. Therefore, Females would be referred to by their first and last names so as to identify which household they belong to. However, it can also be viewed as hypocritical if looked by a feminist that the author would be on some sort of a first name basis with women, even though most of them in the book, with the exceptions of Dunya and Sonia, are inferior to men.
One example from Crime and Punishment is Svidrigalov's complete disregard for women. Svidrigailov is a former employer of Dunya, and he uses her as pretty much a slave and does not respect her at all as a human being. In the later parts of the novel, he treats other women in the same way, and at the very end, before he commits suicide, he realizes the errors of his way, and he almost has a revelation as he realizes that women need to be treated in a more respectful manner, and he apologizes and sets free his former employees.
Throughout Crime and Punishment, economic oppression of both men and women always instigates violence against women. Raskolnikov, frustrated by his economic struggles, murders his wealthy creditor, Alonia, and her sister with an axe. This violence directly stems from Raskolnikov's discomfort with his poverty. Unlike most women of the 1860s of St. Petersburg, Alonia achieved financial freedom throughout independent thinking, hard work, and shrewd saving, the very traits for which Rask and other students condemned in her. Svidrigaïlov's fiscal power struggle with Marfa, Petronov, and Dunya causes him to abuse the women. However, Marfa had control over Svidrigaïlov with a momentary document. Svidrigaïlov revolts against being an economic inferior by beating her until Marfa finally surrenders the document and control over the state, causing Svidrigaïlov, who now has control, to beat her until she dies.
Well, there you have it. You learned something new today, didn't you? By looking at a literary work through a feminist lens, you not only see a difference in the way women and men read and process literature, but also how the author interprets his female characters. The feminist lens is also related to the Marxist lens, and that both the behaviors of male and female characters are heavily influenced by economic factors such as how well the economy is, the type of economy, economic status, and money. Nevertheless, when looking through a feminist lens, one is not just simply looking at the female characters, but more at how everyone else, the author, the readers, and other characters, view those females, and how they are represented throughout the work.